are the only folks keeping the barbarians from the gate.
I got into the labor movement not because I wanted to negotiate wages. I got into the labor movement because I saw it as a vehicle to do massive social change to improve the lots of people.
Let's take these son of a out and give America back to America where we belong. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, the Tea Party can go straight to hell.
I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. I am a real American. Fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
We are back. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Summerfield. He is Trucker Randy, and we are your defending fathers.
Hey, can you hear me okay, Brian?
Certainly can.
I just got a flash warning that my Skype click-to-call crashed, so I didn't know if I was still connected. I got a comment on Facebook, said that the polling data, Fox 2 from Detroit just came out with a new updated poll for the Michigan U.S. Senate race. 40% barrier has been cracked by Pete Hoekstra. Yesterday it was at 39.7. Today they've got him at 36%. Clark Durant 26%. So it's definitely getting tighter. Looks like now it's down to a 10-point race, and got about a week to go here before next Tuesday.
I think the interesting thing that we need to watch going forward over the next week, almost like an experiment, is, Freedom Works is coming to Michigan. They have tabbed this race and the Senate race as one that they want to try to get involved in. And if they move the bar 15 to 20 points in the next week, we will know that what they're doing is working.
Well, it's worked so far in Indiana for Richard Murdoch beating Dick Lugar. It worked for Deb Fischer in Nebraska. And last night, worked for Ted Cruz. They endorsed him and got down there and made calls, got out the vote, and he won by 13 when he was down by 10 going into the this primary. So they have endorsed Clark Durant, and as you said, they are rolling as we speak. Their buses are on the way to Michigan. So it should be a very interesting weekend. I think I'm personally getting out and helping get yard signs to Sheboygan. I'm going to personally put signs out from Ignis all the way to Sault Ste. Marie up I-75 at every exit ramp, northbound and southbound. And then I'm heading over to Nobbin Way along US 2. I'm going to stop in Manistee, Escanaba, and then I'm going up to Houghton and Marquette, and then crossing back through the center of the UP, stopping in places like Newberry and Curtis, and picking up, literature. Some got shipped up there by mistake. It should have gone to Wayne, Oakland, Macomb counties in southeastern Michigan. It actually got shipped to Escanaba by mistake. So as I'm dropping yard signs off, I'm going to be picking up literature. I'm going to then cross the bridge and go back to Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties to bring them that literature they need for this weekend. And then from Detroit area, Saturday morning I'll be over in Kalamazoo dropping literature off there so they can have over 100 supporters are going to be knocking on 20,000 doors is the goal. That those 100 people are going to try to knock on 200 a day on Saturday for both Jack Hogendijk and Clark Durant. They're going to be carrying literature for both candidates.
Well, I almost feel like I should be singing some Johnny Cash tunes, I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, former truck driver, that little jaunt to the UP and then downstate is nothing compared to some of the things I've had to do. So, but got to get these signs out and get the literature out so that they can pass them out this weekend and hopefully affect the outcome and what happens next Tuesday. There's one other aspect to this too that people need to know, Gary Glenn dropped out of the U.S. Senate race and endorsed Clark Durant. Gary, of course, had the backing of the Michigan for Conservative Senate. It was over 40 Tea Party groups from across the state of Michigan who started back in November last year getting organized to vet these candidates and to narrow it down to one constitutional conservative. And we ended up endorsing Gary Glenn, and he's dropped out now and supported Clark Durant. So all these Tea Party groups from the state of Michigan are now working for Clark Durant.
I got permission over the break to use a story, and I'm even more honored and blessed because he gave me permission to give him a call. And a friend of the show, Stacy Swimp, is on with us. And hey, Stacy, you're on with Trucker Randy and Brian Summerfield. We are your defending fathers.
Hey, Stacy.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How you doing this glorious morning?
Hey, man, I'm doing fair for an old square.
Stacy,
where are you at?
Say again?
Where are you at this morning?
Detroit. I'm about to go to the Rotary Club in Detroit, Michigan, the Detroit Athletic Club, talk about urban education.
Stacy, I saw a story you had that you were involved in yesterday in inner city Detroit, and it's a moving story because I think it's where we need to be as Christians. And you were at a counter. You could see that somebody was not having a good day, and why don't you go ahead and tell the story from your own words, because I think it is a great testimony to what we need to be doing on a daily basis wherever we are.
Sure, I was actually in Detroit at a gas station, and within the gas station there is a Subway, and I was there. Actually, there was no one in line, but the lady seemed really distracted and somewhat discombobulated. And so each time I would tell her what I ordered, she would repeat back something incorrect to me, and she just seemed really distracted. And so I asked her, I said, "Are you okay?" And she says, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'm sorry." She kept apologizing. I said, "No, you're okay. Just take your time. It's okay." And finally she figured out what I wanted and started putting the wrong meat on the sandwich. I was like, "Excuse me, ma'am, I didn't want the roast beef. I wanted the turkey." And she once again started apologizing. I said, "It's okay. It's okay." And I said, "You sure you're okay?" And she looked at me and she just started breaking down crying and just telling me that her niece is missing and that her niece's boyfriend had been killed earlier that morning. I ended up seeing that report on the news later that day, and she said her niece didn't come home last night, and they had her 2-year-old baby, and she had never failed to come home, and she was very traumatized. So I ended up actually ministering to this lady over the next 20 minutes or so, and even managed to, I guess by the grace of God, managed to make her laugh before I left, and she ended up making my sandwich the right way. But it was just an interesting thing, and it just reminded me of what one of my mentors told me many years ago, that God is always at work around us, inviting us to a work that He's doing. And many times we get so caught up in what we think we ought to be doing for the mission that we miss the actual mission, if that makes sense to you.
Oh, it makes sense, and it's biblical. I mean, it's praying for waves of opportunity that come our way so that, we're available and see what's around us. And yesterday is a perfect illustration of that.
Oh yes. And I'm in Detroit all the time, and I don't often post those kind of stories, but it's not uncommon. I mean, just 3 days ago, gentlemen, I was at actually the same gas station, and as I was looking down the aisle, I really wanted some potato chips for a snack, and there were a group of guys, and one of them kept looking at me, and he says, "Hey, man, I know you from somewhere. I've seen you before." And I said, "Really?" And he looked at me again. He said, "I've seen you in a debate." I said, you might have. And he said, I know. He said, I saw you on debating this guy named Clark Durant. It was pretty funny. He saw me on a debate on Fox 2 with Hero Perkins talking about Pete Hoekstra Super Bowl ad. And, I wasn't there as a Hoekstra supporter. I was just there as a political commentator. I just said, hey, I didn't think it was a racist ad. I think that's a little over the top. I didn't find it to be demeaning. I said, Hoekstra's not my guy per se, but, if it's right, it's right. It's wrong, it's wrong. I didn't find it that to be offensive, and Clark said it was demeaning, and so we debated that. It wasn't a political thing, between Clark and I. And so anyway, the guy, he remembered that, and then he just went on, he just yelled out Miller. He said, oh my God, this guy's a black Republican. And everybody in the store got silent. You should have seen it. I mean, he was just, everything just stopped moving. And he said, man, this guy ain't no joke though, man, cause he debates Republicans, Democrats, he don't care. And then another guy, started saying, oh yeah, man, I read your article in the Michigan Chronicle when he found out my name. And so then we started talking about jobs, and the guy asked me, what are we going to do about jobs? I said, well, the first thing we got to do is we got to get your local Detroit Democrats to repeal all your local prevailing wages and get rid of these union-only project labor agreements so that brothers like you can get jobs. They didn't know what that was. And so I spent the next half an hour, gentlemen, and to your listening audience, I spent the next half an hour with those guys standing out in the parking lot teaching them about prevailing wages, Davis-Bacon, and union-only project labor agreements, and how they're killing jobs for all Americans, but particularly here in Detroit. And gave them all my business card, and I told them, I said, now, if you call me, I'll give you my cell phone number, but you got to call me.
Well, I thought about you last week because Traverse City brought up that they wanted to possibly add a city minimum wage of $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this has Stacy educational opportunity written all over it.
Yeah. If Traverse City does that, that's a death blow to small businesses, and particularly to teenagers, because what it does, obviously, is it puts small businesses in a position where they can no longer afford to do business at the same level. So they have to, and the cost of doing business goes up, and those costs get transferred over, obviously, to the customers, and then also to their employees, because they gotta let somebody go. I mean, if you're jacking up from $7 to $10, well, somebody has to get fired. You can't keep doing that business, because there are other costs associated with that too. And teenagers, you can forget about giving teenagers summer jobs because they can only afford at this point to hire skilled workers. There's no opportunity to bring unskilled workers on and give them job opportunities and give them access to skill development every time minimum wage goes up. So that's one of the dumbest ideas. Whoever came up with minimum wage obviously doesn't understand Econ 101, and clearly is not a friend to business, my friends.
That's right, and especially, you look at the cost. You mentioned that it's not just the $10, but you might as well multiply that $10 times 20%. It's going to cost you about $12 for that $10 employee, just in your costs associated with employment taxes, unemployment, all those things that go along with it.
Absolutely. It's horrible. And I'll tell you, I've often been the blunt of liberal tax, because I've often said, and I'm not the first one, Thomas Sowell has been saying it for years, Walter Williams has been saying it for years, minimum wage is not only anti-business, but it's inherently racist. And I don't have a problem saying that. And Al Sharpton said that we don't know what they're talking about, because they could be talking about hamburgers and chickens. Who knows? I mean, anything is racist to them. But when I tell you something is racist, I assure you that I'm saying that it is proven. We can demonstrate through qualitative and quantitative evidence how it has a negative and disproportionate impact on a specific demographic in our country. That's what I'm saying. It's the minimum wage. Has always, in fact, if you study the history of minimum wage, it was intended to do that. The same thing with the Davis-Bacon Act. Prevailing wages, it was intended to be discriminatory against a specific demographic in our country. And when you look at the black unemployment rate in America, it's almost twice the normal rate, and minimum wage doesn't do anything to help that. But here's the thing that may shock you and your listening audience. Big labor or big business, they love minimum wage. And the reason why they like minimum wage so much is because large corporations use minimum wage to eliminate small competition. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. This is why I think about this for a minute. And this is going to get some of these Romney fans mad, but I'm going to tell you this. This is why Mitt Romney likes minimum wage. Now, a lot of people don't know that probably about 2 months ago, someone asked Mitt Romney, you can Google this on YouTube to your listening audience because it's right there. They said, Governor Romney, if you're elected president, will you continue to support minimum wage? And he said without hesitation, I'm not changing my mind. I still believe in the minimum wage hike according to the inflation index. Now, personally, when he said that, I almost fell out of my couch. He may be the first Republican I've ever seen say that up front, even though we know that there've been Republicans who voted for this thing in the House and the Senate, but none of them are crazy enough to just get on television and say, I support minimum wage. No Republican does that.
Especially with his business background. I mean, you look at how many businesses he's run, that just stuns me.
Well, I just thought I'd put that out there. And but so the question is, why? Why would Mitt Romney be a supporter of minimum wage? Just because he's been associated with large super companies, and the super companies love minimum wage, and therefore, because it kills out the small mom and pop businesses, the small, medium-sized businesses cannot compete with the larger super corporations because of minimum wage as well. So he hasn't necessarily been an advocate in terms of his direct business experience of small businesses. He's been involved with large corporations, so they're swallowing up and killing small businesses with the government's help through minimum wage. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the government's killing jobs through those kind of policies, and they're helping big business. Isn't that something?
Getting back to the very first story we talked about, do you have any update on that as far as if that young lady's relatives have been killed at all in the tragedy surrounding that?
No, I don't. Actually, I'm going to go by that store and see if I could, check up on that lady if she's at work. I'm approximately 5 minutes away from there now. The young man in question, I know that she absolutely was telling the truth because it was in the news. Later, I hadn't seen the news report until later when I saw that 3 men in Detroit were murdered in a barber shop in Detroit. And the violence in this city, Flint as well as Saginaw, and really every urban community in the nation, is at a crisis level. And what I heard yesterday in response to the murders, someone said, "Oh my God, we've got to get guns off of the street so that our kids can stop killing each other." And my immediate response to that is not going to work. That's not what we need to focus on, because the guns are just objects. They don't have life. They don't breathe. They don't choose. We choose. We use them. So the problem is not the guns. We're the problem. So maybe we can have a radical revolution of values and a spiritual revival, and people take personal responsibility for how we're raising our kids, and we impact the culture, because we're culturally and spiritually sick. Culturally, in the sense that culture has to do with the system of ideas, system of set or accepted ideas and beliefs and norms. So if we can change those systems of ideas, beliefs, and norms, and we could radically impact our values in the city, then you'll see the crime reduced, and you don't have to worry about gun control. Gun control is just a liberal lie that would focus you on more restrictions that would not really focus in on that person's responsibility piece.
I talked about that last week, that that's what we're going to see. And I mentioned that, you might not have known this, but one of the very first news stories that was ever put out in any type of news setting, I believe it was in one of the first newspapers, was that Cain killed Abel local government officials call for outlaw of rocks. I don't know if you read that or not.
No, I hadn't seen that, but like I said, the whole gun control thing is why are we outraged that no fathers are taking responsibility for their children? Or why are we outraged that we can't get local people in the community to volunteer in local schools? They won't donate to the schools. They won't donate to the nonprofits. We won't have that conversation. Why are we outraged that you have a church on every inner city corner? Okay, for the most part. I mean, you every 2 or 3 corners there's a church in the city, and yet there's blight, there's crime, there's prostitution, there's drug trafficking, and it's not slowing down, it's speeding up. So what we don't have is we don't have enough Christians who are modeling what we say 7 days a week.
That's right. It comes down. We've talked about it off the air quite a bit, and I've mentioned it on the air. We need to address one of our biggest problems as a nation, and it's a sin problem. And we need that to happen in order for us to really get the nation back to where it needs to be. Stacy, I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate hearing from you. And please shoot me a text message or a message on Facebook if you hear anything new with the lady at the gas station.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you both for having me on today.
Thanks.
Thanks, Stacy.
Okay.
And that is our mutual friend Stacy Swimp.
Yep, always telling it like it is, from Detroit. He's a major person involved in our Michigan Freedom to Work effort. He's just recently joined their board of directors and is out all the time across the country making speeches and talking to people. He's mostly famous for the fact that he is a unhyphenated American.
Yes.
He's not an African American or a black American. He's an American. And has a very good speech. I've heard him delivered a few different times in different venues. And like Brother Stacy.
Tell you what, he tells it like it is. He knows the issues. And, he's at battle on a daily basis in wherever he's at. And think about it. You talk about somebody that stands out and is willing to talk about his beliefs, whether they be religious, political, or whatever. He's going to bring them up wherever he's at, regardless of the situation.
Yeah, and again, I think the most important thing you said there is he always tells the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't want to hear it sometimes, or they get upset about it. But again, the truth is the truth is the truth.
And we're gonna get him up here. We gotta get next event that we have. I'm gonna make sure we get him up here, and you get to meet him live. And very, very engaging personality, and you'll love him up here. And we've got
you got to be careful. He loves to give hugs.
That's okay.
Yep.
And so appreciate him calling in this half hour, and great story from what happened to him yesterday in Detroit. I'm Brian Summerfield. He is Trucker Randy, and we are your defending fathers.